afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul, and I'm a nerd, and you are here today at the March 2015 Worldox Virtual User Group meeting, a presentation of the fine folks here. Now, I mean me and Mary Jo, so I guess take that with a grain of salt. The fine folks here at Attorney Computer Systems. And today, we are lucky enough to be talking about user management and document type management. Mary Jo is going to take you through how you can manage your users within the Worldox system, delete them, change names if somebody gets married, add a new one if you get a new employee. I'm going to talk about doc type management, you know, those document types that show up when you profile a document. Somebody should have the ability to change or alter or add or delete those, or inactivate, I should say, and maybe that's you. And if it is, we're going to talk about how to do that. But before we do that, a little bit of housekeeping. This thing that I'm pointing to right now, this is called the GoToWebinar Control Panel. Yours may look a little cooler because they've updated the look, so things may look a little different. I have not had time yet to update my picture, so this is a picture of the old GoToWebinar Control Panel. But nonetheless, this little button here that looks like an arrow pointing to the right will cause, when pressed, will cause this thing to slide right off the right-hand side of your screen. And when that happens, the only thing you'll have left on your screen are these buttons here. And this one will turn into an arrow that will now point to the left, because clicking it again will cause your control panel to slide back onto the screen. Why would you want to slide your control panel back onto the screen? Well, of course, it's because you have a question and you want to type it here and remember to hit send. Normally, Leanne, our humble moderator, would recognize that you have a question and immediately, well, perhaps at an opportune moment, interrupt Mary Jo or myself and ask your question on your behalf. But me and Mary Jo are kind of on our own today. Leanne had an appointment that could not be moved, and so Mary Jo or I will recognize that you have a question and ask that question on your behalf, and maybe we'll be the ones to answer it too. Keep typing follow-up questions here. Keep remembering to hit send, and we'll keep on top of the situation to make sure you get all of your question answered. And of course, sometimes I go off track. Get me back on track by keeping me on track by what you're typing here. Make sure that I'm answering the right question. If you're not shy, you might try this. You might raise your hand. That's what this hand with an up arrow pointing upwards in front of means. It means raise your hand. So if you have a question and you want to talk to us, do this. We will unmute your microphone. You will enter the no Dorito, no Frito zone, no crunchy snacks. We will remain in that line of communication. Your mic will remain open until we're done answering your question. So keep us on track. Keep asking those follow-up questions, and then when we're done, we'll mute your microphone, and you can go back into the Frito or Dorito zone. So without any further ado, I'm going to press this button and that button and another button and that one there, and we are going to take you into the Worldox administration screen. And hold on one second, I'm going to take this to Purdue Law in the background so you can see our fictional law office, Purdue Law offices, and underneath it the Worldox WD admin screen, and Mary Jo will tell you all about user management. Mary Jo?
So as Paul said, you sometimes have users that leave the firm, you sometimes have users that join the firm, and then you have those users that change their name. They get married, they get divorced, they change their name. So how do we manage those users? And that's what we're discussing today. So all of those things are handled in our WD admin window. If you're the administrator, you may have this icon on your desktop, and you can click on that to get into the WD admin desktop. If you don't, it is located in the Worldox folder. So you would navigate out in your Windows directory to the Worldox folder, start typing WD admin, or scroll down to WD admin, double click it, and you will get to this window right here. You do have to be a manager and have those rights to get in here. So this is where you're going to go. In this window, we've got a little user button. So on the users, we have an add edit. Now the import is usually used for brand new Worldox customers. We may be able to bring in, you've got your user list and we can import that in, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. We're going to be talking about adding and editing those users. So I'm going to click on that. It's going to open up our user list. A couple of things here that we can do is sort our list. We can show our inactive and our active, or both. And something Paul said about deleting users, it's not something I usually would recommend, only because that user is probably tied to several Worldox documents that you've stored. They're in the profile and that user is being used. Unless you have moved all of those out of that user into a different user, it's probably not a wise idea to delete them. But you can make them inactive. So it's very easy. We have one in here. Here's Dan Weary. He's no longer with our company. But you can see he's white because we have marked him inactive. We didn't delete him because, again, he may be tied to record somewhere. We just marked him inactive. And to do that, let's just get into his record here. There is a little active user or not active user right in here. And so if he is not an active user, we would have that box unchecked and we would save that, and then he is no longer active. So that's how you can come in and you can inactivate a user if you need to. We'll go into Patty's icon here and we'll look at her. She's green. So let me click on her. Not double clicking for me here. There we go. She is an active user here. We're going to leave her that way. And that is, where we would go to turn that off and on. So let's say that we have a brand new user join the firm. We can come into the add user. It's going to let us give them a Worldox user code. This is going to be how are they going to log in. Now here, this column, you can see the user codes right here that we have done. Most firms have a standard that they've set up. In our office, we have our first initial and our last name. Now, it only goes to 8 characters. So you'll see Leanne is missing an L on her name because it only lets us put in 8 characters. But we keep our standard format here. So we have our first initial, last name, until we run out of characters. Patty somehow got in there backwards. I'm not sure who added Patty, but she should be P-Alt if we were going to be consistent. This could be numbers. Your firm could have this as 01, 02, 03, 04. It could be just last name. It could be just first name, depending on, it could be just your initials. This could just be your 3 initials. So just depending on how your firm has set this up, you'll probably want to have some kind of a standard format. If you don't know what it is, you can look at this column and see what it is. And we can add a new user here by typing that in. So if this were J. Smith, I'm just going to type his name in here, and then he would have a logon name. This login name is how he logs into his computer, not Worldox, but his computer in the morning. So he may still be John J. Smith. He might be John. However he is logging in, you're going to want to put that login name here. So in our instance, let's say that he is just John Smith. Same thing, J. Smith. Now the display name is the name that's going to show up here as the username. So this would be his full name. We want it to be John D. Smith. And we'll just type that in there. Then you have the choice here just to tell whether or not this user is a manager. Are you going to give this user full rights to the files and settings for everyone? Yes or no. It's not saying he doesn't have any rights. It's saying does he have manager rights? If he does, we would say yes, and then it's going to ask us to confirm that you grant this vast power with forethought and malice. Okay, that is new.
That's got to be new.
I do not recall seeing that. So that is, someone has a very good sense of humor at Worldox because I have never seen that. So it usually just says confirm.
I've met some of these people.
Okay.
None of them really have a good sense of humor.
So that is good. Yes, they're really, are you going to give them that right? So yes or no. So we can say yes, he's going to be a manager. This next box is on the startup. Do you want Worldox to appear on the taskbar? Do you want it to show up down here, yes or no? It's defaulted to be yes. You can turn that on or you can turn that off depending on whether you want that there. The next thing is you want his email address. Now I really don't have a John Smith, and I'm not going to put it in, but you would put in that person's email address. And then this last area is if you're using Worldox Web, you do need to enable it and you need to give them a user password. So that is the last option there. You would then save this, and then John Smith would be in there. Now, I'm not going to put an email in, but we'll just save him. And here is J. Smith. He's an active user. I didn't put his initials in. He's actually initials number 8, so I could get back in here, and we could edit that user and get those initials in here. I'm sorry, I skipped right over that box over here. those initials go right over here. If you don't put them in, it just assumes it's a number. Whoops, I don't want my initials, do I? I want JDS for John D. Smith. We'll save that, and now he will have, and see, I don't have an email, so let me get that out of there. That was what I was worried was going to happen before, and I don't know if it'll let me get that out of there. Let's try it. There we go. Okay, so here is J. Smith. There's his JDS, and then we have, he is a manager, and it is on the taskbar, and so on. Now, I don't have a login name for him that's real, so it's not recognizing that, but if I did, that would be there. I didn't put an email, so it's just putting the J. Smith. Those are things that when you fill that out, it would look just like our other users up here. So let's say that John Smith changes his name. I'm not even going to go there that it's a guy and that he's getting married, so I'm just going to come in and say that we want to change his name here. We can edit the user. We can edit his name and his login name. Now remember, though, that this login name is what he is logging into his computer with. So we have to be very careful of how we're doing that. If he didn't change his name to log into the computer, we don't want to change it here.
And at the same time, we don't really want to change his Worldox user code
Right.
unless we've taken steps to change all the documents that he's tied to.
Correct. So you probably, before I would come in and modify that. In fact, I don't even know that I would modify it. I would add a new user for him in that name and then transfer, edit all those documents to that user, that new user in here. And then I would go in and I would change that, that name. Or I wouldn't even do that. I would just make this one inactive. So there's that. If they were to leave the firm, we talked about making them inactive. We've talked about adding. We've talked about changing. We can print this list, and we can refresh this list as well. If we make changes, you can refresh it. We have the 3 filters we talked about. So I think that about covers what we had, Paul. Is there other?
Very good. That's about it.
Okay.
Now, what I'm going to talk about is document management types or document types. And they are very much like users in that we don't want to change them because we have a whole bunch of documents that are already assigned to that. We add them and we delete, we inactivate them maybe, but we don't want to change them. Same sort of concept. What's different is how we get there. We can go through admin, but it's much easier to just pull up a profile of a document, and as long as you're a manager or someone who has the right to edit this document type table, when you go in there, you'll have some special buttons that hopefully not everybody has. You can add, delete, you can inactivate by editing. You can show or inactive, show all, show only active. These buttons should, some of these buttons like edit, delete, and add should really only be there for certain users, just like only certain users get the ability to add users to the user table. So if you find that you've got a document type that is maybe just needing to be changed, oops, and don't make the mistake I did of simply clicking on the document type. Let me show you what I did. I went into the doc type table. I found the one I was looking to change, and instead of editing it, I double-clicked on it, which means I'm selecting it. You're in a selection table now, so if you want to edit this, you click on it and then click Edit Field. Maybe you want to add, and I don't know if that's spelled right. We won't even go there. And that's how you edit them. Okay, so if you've got the wrong description here, you can simply go into Edit. You can also inactivate. Now, inactivating is what you do instead of deleting. If you delete this and you've got a whole bunch of documents that are set up with a doc type of email or document type code of email, then those profiles are going to become invalid. You'll still be able to see them, but you need to consider that. So just like Mary Jo said, don't delete a user, I say don't delete a field. Maybe what you'll do is inactivate it, add the one that is the way you want it to be. Instead of email, maybe you want to make this EM. And so we would simply add one, give it EM as the code, change the description Now at that point, what you can do, just like Mary just said for users, is you could run some routines that would change all the emails to EM for all the profiles that have email. Then you could come in and delete that if you wanted to. But I'm a fan of just leaving them inactive. They both mean the same thing. Going forward, you're going to use EM. Going forward, you're not going to be able to use email because it's now inactive. But that means when a profile comes up that has this code, it's not going to present a problem. It's not going to prevent the user from moving on without changing it. It's just an inactive code that's not being used anymore. So we've added one, and you simply use this button here to add one. You can delete one, but we don't recommend it, and you can edit them. And again, you can print the list, which is very handy because a lot of people would rather have a list on their bulletin board than drop down that thing. They want to get used to typing EM and being done with it instead of having to drop down the list. And you can also export the list, which means you can put it in someplace else, maybe import it into some sort of document that you're then going to maybe incorporates other things that you're using within the firm. If the list were long, you could use find field to search it. We recommend that you stay relatively succinct and relatively concise with your document types. I've seen firms that have hundreds and hundreds of document types, and nothing confuses things more than having so many document types that you just don't know which one to use. It's fine to have pleadings, and it's fine to have a couple different kinds of pleadings, but having dozens of different kinds of pleadings is really a little bit more than you need to do in a document management system with DocType. Keep in mind that maybe you want to overclassify things because you're worried about being able to find it, but you're in Worldox now, and there are a lot of ways to find whatever it is you're looking for. You don't have to pigeonhole documents into such thinly defined document types that they make things actually harder to find. And that's pretty much it. You can add, you can edit. We don't want to delete. You can inactivate by editing and simply choosing inactive. You can print the list and you can export the list. So that's that. What are we doing next month? Well, next month at our Worldox Virtual User Group meeting, we are talking about archiving email by year. Mary Jo's going to cover that topic. It's a kind of a neat little trick that we learned, I believe, from a book that John Heckman wrote called Worldox in an Hour for Lawyers, or Worldox for Lawyers in an Hour. And I'm going to talk about version-based text searching, how to make sure that you are doing just what you expect and searching all versions of a document rather than the most recent one. Let me really quickly move out here. If you go out and you type in a web browser, attorneycomputersystems.com, you will get to our website, but more importantly, you will get to a place where you can see all of our videos, including the 3 virtual user group meetings, including the one you're at right now, the Worldox one. There we go, maybe. There we go. So when you get there, you'll see a description of the virtual user group meeting itself. You'll see registration information and a description of the next scheduled Worldox virtual user group meeting. As you scroll down, you'll see recorded content. This is the one you're watching right now, so it's currently in, not even in post-production yet. That won't happen for about 2 minutes until I end the meeting. And then you'll scroll down and you'll see all of the old Worldox, in this instance, Worldox virtual user group meetings in descending order. So a lot of content here. We also have our coffee pot webinars, which is something I do once a month on a Friday. We have our eBytes video series that Mary Jo does, these very short, succinct, very on-topic videos on a very specific thing. And our broader form, Paul and Mary Jo show, where we take a broader topic and kind of get into it for about 10 or 15 minutes and show you all sorts of different things and intricacies about that particular topic. So be sure to take advantage of all this content, and of course in our new website format you can come here and search for a certain word and get right to what it is that you want to learn about simply by clicking on the appropriate post or webinar or VUG meeting or whatever it is that you're finding. So there we have it. Everybody have a good rest of the day, good rest of the month, and we will see you next month at the Worldox Virtual User Group meeting. Thanks much. Bye-bye.